But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that?
It's one thing to toss a bit of casual shade at a politician, but it's a very different spectacle to set them on fire on national TV. And that's exactly what Bill Maher just did to Gavin Newsom. For years, Maher played the role of Newsom's loyal supporter and cheerleader, but that act is clearly over now, and even he seems done with the governor's three-ring circus. On his latest show, Maher went after Newsom's record, tearing into the mess California has become under his watch. And this time, he didn't pull a single punch, turning the segment into a takedown that was hard to ignore. If you're craving more fiery breakdowns like this, don't forget to hit subscribe and keep the heat coming.
Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, home to 12% of all Americans and 50% of all Mexicans. On the upside, Newsom is the only governor, with the possible exception of Kristi Noem, who looks like they could do porn.
Bill Maher really went there, and he didn't hesitate for even a moment, because he said straight out that Gavin Newsom's biggest legacy isn't tied to policy, progress, or anything resembling real leadership. It's that he looks like he belongs in the adult film industry, a comment so sharp and unexpected that it shook the entire conversation. That's not a playful jab. That's a career-rattling hit from someone who used to praise him openly, and it completely changes the tone of their once friendly dynamic. Think about it. You're the governor of one of the most powerful states in the nation, yet the headline trailing your name is that you'd be perfect for an X-rated casting call, turning your image into a punchline instead of an accomplishment. Out of all the achievements Newsom claims to have, Maher reduced everything to a mocking comparison that overshadows his entire career, and that says more than any political critic ever could about how badly things have deteriorated under his leadership. And when one of your loudest supporters suddenly flips the script and roasts you this brutally, it's no longer simple shade. It becomes a warning sign that your political brand is starting to collapse.
I don't want to say he really wants to be the guy who steps in if the current nominee goes down, but he gets an alert on his phone every time Biden can't think of a word. The downside is that governor of California is kind of like being conservator for Britney Spears. They'll attack him on California's homeless problem, but there's a response to that. The homeless can live anywhere, but they choose California.
California has practically rolled out a welcome mat for the homeless, turning the entire state into a place where arriving with nothing feels oddly convenient and even expected, because the laws make it easy, comfortable, and surprisingly inviting to stay on the streets. This isn't compassion, it's chaos. And under Gavin Newsom's watch, the problem hasn't just grown, it has exploded like a wildfire, spreading through every corner of the state, transforming sidewalks into long rows of tents and whole neighborhoods into open-air shelters that seem to expand every month. Instead of delivering real solutions, his policies have poured fuel on the crisis, and his soft approach on crime, constantly appearing to side with offenders over victims, has only worsened the situation, giving people who break the law little more than a symbolic slap on the wrist. The math is brutally simple: homelessness up, crime up, quality of life down, and in that single harsh equation, you can see the legacy Newsom is leaving behind.
Of course, the knock on Gavin has always been that he's slick. Yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that. I notice slick is something no one has been accusing Biden of lately. Do you want good at talking or don't you? Newsom is the best communicator in the party with a history of standing up to bullies, and his name lends itself to the best slogan since I Like Ike. I'm having Gavin.
Bill Maher is finally saying what so many Californians have been shouting for years, calling out that Gavin Newsom is really just a polished salesman in a sharp suit, skilled at smooth talking and dripping with charisma on the outside while offering nothing solid underneath. Newsom has mastered the art of political rambling, delivering long, flashy speeches that dance around tough questions and cleverly hide his failures. But charm alone can't put roofs over people's heads, stop rising crime, or save a state that's slowly falling apart. His real talent isn't leadership, it's escape, because every time he's cornered, he slips away behind rehearsed lines and practiced confidence that never solves anything. But the real question is whether that's the type of governor people deserve. Someone who promises the moon but consistently delivers dust, leaving residents desperate for real solutions instead of catchy sound bites. And if even Maher, once one of his most vocal supporters, is calling him out so openly, maybe it's time the rest of the country starts paying attention too.
I was on KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, "Who do you want for running president?" I mentioned, "I think you'd be good at the job." Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win.
Anyone with even a small amount of common sense can see that Gavin Newsom has no realistic chance at becoming president, not after the wreckage he has left behind in California, where his record is so disastrous that even the strongest PR team couldn't cover it up. Across the state, residents are openly expressing how deeply frustrated they are watching a once thriving center of innovation, business, and prosperity fade into a cautionary tale that other states now point to as a warning. Companies have been fleeing at a staggering pace, with major businesses packing up and hauling jobs and opportunities out of California, and high-profile figures joining the mass departure because they refuse to endure his risky economic experiments. Add in a shrinking middle class and living costs that keep climbing, and you're left with a state in free fall where the numbers don't lie. California's exodus is breaking records and showing no sign of slowing down. And here's the twist that makes it even more devastating for his national ambitions. Even many Democrats are admitting he's pushed things too far. And when people on your own side start saying you're too progressive, your presidential dreams aren't just shaky, they're finished before they even begin.
The swing states, there's only 8 of them.
Right. Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language, you're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common
No,
ground.
it's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like
Bill Maher hits the nail on the head, because what's dragging Gavin Newsom down isn't only California's explosion of homelessness or the struggling economy, but the non-stop wave of woke policies he insists on promoting, even when voters across the country are exhausted from having identity politics pushed into every part of their lives. Under Newsom, California has become the center stage for this trend, and one example stands out clearly. The state actually passed a law forcing any toy store with more than 500 employees to include a gender-neutral section, a rule Maher pointed out as one of the most absurd ideas yet. In Newsom's California, it feels like kids can't simply enjoy toys anymore. They have to make a political statement while doing it, as if the world suddenly decided that gender doesn't exist at all, leaving many ordinary people confused and frustrated. Policies like this don't inspire confidence. They make voters roll their eyes and say, yeah, this guy could never be president, because instead of focusing on real issues, he keeps cheering for ideas that feel completely out of touch.
too much government there.
That's an interesting one, because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making a case they're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind.
That right there is Gavin Newsom's smooth talk in full action, the classic maneuver every seasoned politician relies on when things start to fall apart, because no one is accusing him of being unaware of California's collapse. Of course, he knows what's happening. Everyone does, since the problems are plastered plastered across headlines every single day. Homelessness is spinning out of control. Crime is rising in major cities. Taxes feel suffocatingly high, and businesses are fleeing the state in huge numbers, turning the situation into a crisis no one can ignore. But the real issue isn't awareness, it's the complete absence of action, because knowing a house is burning doesn't make you a hero. Grabbing a hose and putting out the flames does. And Newsom hasn't picked up that hose once. Instead, he slips behind polished speeches and flashy buzzwords, pretending that simply admitting a problem counts as leadership, even though words don't build affordable housing, reduce crime, or balance a budget. California is still waiting for real solutions, and every day that passes makes it clear that smooth talk alone can't fix a state in trouble.
Good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome. That was my legislative priority.
It was looking bad there for a while, and we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then whenever I read, 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds.
Right.
No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds.
You heard that right. Nearly 80% of California's entire water supply is swallowed up by agriculture, and a huge portion of that goes straight into almond production, which is shocking when you remember this is a state famous for droughts and wildfire seasons that strike almost every summer, while ordinary residents are constantly told to shorten their showers, let their lawns turn brown, and ration every drop of water like they're living through an emergency. Billions of gallons are quietly funneled into massive almond orchards because almonds have become one of California's biggest money makers. Big agriculture has enough political influence to keep the water flowing at full speed, even while families are lectured to conserve as if every drop is disappearing forever, creating a level of irony that feels almost unreal. In a state battling fire, heat, and relentless dryness, California's water isn't going to the people who desperately need it. It's going to grow nuts, highlighting a system so backwards that it leaves residents frustrated and stunned.
A boatload of almonds.
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Yeah. Come on, man. take on big almond.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
No. You're right about it. It's not that we don't have the water. That said, the last couple of years were tough. I mean, but it's also where the water's falling and we're not capturing it. And we're not capturing those extreme years with these atmospheric rivers. Wets are getting a lot wetter, dry's drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California.
When it comes to delivering slick and polished answers, nobody seems to outshine Gavin Newsom, because the man could probably sell sand in the desert with that smooth delivery he brings to every press conference and interview, making it sound like he's reinventing leadership every time he speaks. But once you look past the glossy words and confident tone, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. He isn't solving California's crises at all. He's simply perfected the art of political theater. Homelessness continues to skyrocket, crime keeps troubling the cities, and businesses are escaping under the pressure of high taxes, yet Newsom remains determined to act like the state is thriving when the reality tells a very different story. What he offers isn't real progress, it's performance. And while uplifting speeches might win applause from a crowd, they don't lower costs, clean the streets, or make communities safer. At the end of the day, dazzling words can only distract people for so long before they realize nothing meaningful is actually being delivered.
Good at this.
What?
See, I'm telling you're good at this job. Okay, but here's I feel like the last couple of years you've purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War country.
I agree with that.
You know what? But you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, this is a blue state and that's a red state, and I don't want to live in that country. I like Florida.
I'm with you. And by the way, I like Florida as well. I like all these states. I completely agree. I don't want to have a state of mind that's a constant fight or flight. We've gone through so much. We've been polarized and traumatized. There's been a tough 5-6 years across the globe, not just in this country. That said, I'm not going to sit back and watch You made the point just a moment ago in your monologue. You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception.
Gavin Newsom is about as woke as a politician can get, and if America ever makes the mistake of putting him in the White House, the entire country should brace itself, because he would drag the nation down the same path California has been sinking into for the past 8 years. His record tells the full story: a once golden state drowning in homelessness, businesses fleeing by the thousands, high taxes crushing the middle class, and major cities overwhelmed by crime and addiction, all while California should have been a model of prosperity thanks to its resources, innovation, and wealth. Instead, under Newsom, it has become a cautionary tale that shows what happens when flashy speeches are valued more than real solutions, as he keeps promoting woke talking points while ignoring the everyday struggles of ordinary people who just want stability and safety. If this California blueprint is truly what he plans to spread across America, then it's a blueprint for national decline, because slick speeches can't hide the truth. His leadership is a disaster wrapped in a designer suit, and once you strip away the media spin, polished image, and rehearsed lines, the reality becomes painfully clear. Leaders like Obama and Newsom rely heavily on charm, illusion, and theatrics, while the real problems grow worse. And just like Obama promised hope but delivered division, Newsom promised a bright California dream but left the state in ruins, yet now some want to hand him control of the entire country. America can't afford another illusionist in power. It needs problem solvers, not performers, because California was the warning shot that everyone should pay attention to. Ignore it, and the entire nation could end up paying the price. And that wraps up today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.